expectations of how group members will act in a given situation. The German Army's emphasis on operational maneuver in both world wars, for instance, led senior leaders to ignore more salient aspects of strategy, in particular, economic mobilization and logistics. Germany's senior military leaders, imbued with a culture of tactical and operational excellence, believed that maneuver would achieve quick victories over major powers, thus enabling Germany to overcome Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and the United States, despite the vast latent industrial power of the Allies. This culture ultimately resulted in the destruction of the Wehrmacht as Allied forces overran Germany in the spring of 1945. The problem for senior military leaders is not just the difficulty in understanding culture, but in using it to further the goals of the organization. Even harder is changing culture when it becomes antithetical to organizational needs. A highly respected Marine general once commented to one of the editors that changing culture is like trying to turn a large cruise liner. It can only occur slowly. These problems exist despite the best intentions of leaders and managers to get culture. One authority on organizational culture writes, "However, even in those cases where top managers have a strong awareness of the significance of culture, there is often a lack of a deeper understanding of how people and organizations function in terms of culture. Culture is as significant and complex as it is difficult to understand and use in a thoughtful way. One of the purposes of this book is to help military leaders understand how organizational culture forms, the influence culture has on organizational functioning and the development of strategy, operations, and tactics, and how culture changes. Culture is clearly a crucial determinant to the effectiveness of military organizations. It may come as a surprise, then, that perhaps the best study in this genre left out culture as a determinant of military effectiveness. In the 3 volumes of Military Effectiveness, focused on World War I, the interwar period, and World War II, editors Alan R. Millett and Williamson Murray, also the co-editor of this volume, posited a number of factors influencing military effectiveness, defined as the process by which armed forces convert resources into fighting power. Among these factors are the ability of an armed force to operate within the political milieu to obtain manpower and resources, the fashioning of strategies to achieve political goals, the matching of ways and means to the ends of strategy, the ability to operate within the context of an alliance, the development of doctrine to maximize the capabilities of various arms and services, the willingness of the officer corps to realistically examine the problems confronting an armed force, the reasonable integration of available technology, a co-equal emphasis on support elements such as intelligence and logistics, and tactical flexibility and adaptability. To be fair, the editors warned that one must include in the analysis non-quantifiable organizational attitudes, behaviors, and relationships that span a military organization's full activities at the political, strategic, operational, and tactical levels. But organizational culture was not an explicit element of the study, and chapter authors, for the most part, did not address it. The intention of this volume, then, is to revise and expand the discussion of military effectiveness by focusing on the role played by organizational and strategic culture in its development. Of all the factors involved in military effectiveness, culture is perhaps the most important. Yet it also remains the most difficult to describe and understand, because it involves so many external factors that impinge, warp, and distort its formation and continuities, even in different military organizations within the same nation.